presidential candidate in 2016?
I think it's got to be an outsider. I think both the presidential and the vice presidential nominee should either be a former or current governor, people who've done successful things in their states, who've taken on big reforms, who are ready to move America forward.
Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. What I meant to play was Alec Baldwin, and we'll get to him in just a second. But joining us right now is Tim Graham, Director of Media Analysis for the Media Research Center. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's start before we get to Baldwin. Let's get to Martin Bashir. I call him Martin. Martin Bashir. We just played the show from the other night. Or the other day on MSNBC in the previous segment. You're well aware of what he said and how we set it up. How is it possible that this man is, as far as I know, maybe you have later news, has not been even publicly reprimanded by MSNBC?
Well, I hate to say we should have low expectations. The soft expectations of MSNBC's bigotry.
to steal a phrase and turn it around from George Bush, yes.
I mean, when you hire Al Sharpton, I mean, the notion that you have any standards tends to stop.
But have you ever heard anything like this? I mean, to me, I've been in this business 30 years, and I know as much about media bias as any non-expert like you are as a host, and I've never seen anything to this level before.
But its virality is limited to the conservative media bloggers. I don't think this is something that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the Huffington Posters and stuff picked up on this?
Not that I know of.
So I mean, I think that. Perhaps they find that he was subtle enough, even though it wasn't subtle. But he beat around the bush, the tiniest amount, that she should get Thistlewood's remedy. And so it is certainly vulgar. It is certainly something that we could all play the game and say, if a Fox News host, say on the 5, uncorked something like this.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can understand how the broader media would respond. And part of the answer to that is simply, when you are a conservative, your hatred is assumed. When you're a liberal, your wisdom is assumed. Your heart is in the right place because you are progressive. Therefore, I was just looking at an interview recently with Margaret Cho, the comedian.
Yeah, boy, she's a piece of work.
Yeah, she basically said, well, I can push as far as I want to because I'm a person of color and a queer and a gay activist and a feminist. Therefore,
well, she's right.
I have a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely right.
So, I mean, I think that's what's being used in this case to some extent, is to say he can say whatever he wants. I mean, and he's known for having just bizarro Rick Santorums like Stalin. I mean, he just clearly is a guy who always sounds like he's coming unglued.
No, I agree. Your colleague.
This is personal in a worse way, obviously.
You're right, and your colleague Noel Shepard is on with us every week from Newsbusters.org. Called him the craziest man, or the biggest loose cannon. And this was before this incident. This was last Thursday. So I mean, he was right on target, and you're absolutely right. But let me move on to talk about Alec Baldwin. And here's a guy who, again, if it were a conservative, would be in hiding somewhere a long time ago. Here's a guy with accusation after accusation of calling black photographers, bigoted names in one sense or another, anti-gay slurs, accusations of in one way or another, usually against photographers. Yet bank has him as a spokesman. He gets kicked off an airplane. They make a joke about it. It was very serious from witnesses who were quoted in the paper. The bank keeps him. He's on, he's got TV series. He's got everything. He's a hero to the left. And now I guess it went a little too far because he's got a show on, again, MSNBC, and he calls a photographer a blank sucking, blanking, and then a derogatory statement towards gays. And I guess that was the straw that broke some back, and MSNBC suspended him for 2 weeks. But why suspend him for that and not Bashir?
Well, probably because Baldwin only has a Friday night show. So when you cancel him when you take him off for 2 weeks, it's 2 hours. whereas you take Bashir off for 2 weeks and it's 10 hours.
Oh, that would be a huge loss.
Yeah, I hear you. But I'm sure to some extent, my guess would be here is that our gay and lesbian alliance against defamation, would call and say he needs to be put in the corner.
Right.
You know.
And the Sarah Palin protective agency wouldn't be calling, and if they did, they wouldn't take the call anyway.
No. Yeah. I mean, again, it's the Lean Forward Network, you know, and so this is the whole thing is, you know, who really should be the first to denounce this? Morning Joe. The people who are against incivility in our politics. How many hours a day could Joe Scarborough spend talking about the vulgarity and incivility that follows him every day on this channel?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that because I do have Joe Scarborough coming on with me tomorrow, and I certainly am going to address this with him, so it'll be interesting to hear what he says. Yeah.
Joe, are we going to fire Martin Bashir?
Absolutely. One more for you real quick here. Cher is at it again, and Sarah Palin's the victim again. I guess there's Palin derangement syndrome that's still in full force, much as Bush derangement syndrome has been a disease that has no cure. And she called her, basically, she tweeted a pic of Sarah Palin. No, wait, she's under dumb C word. The viciousness, the hatred. I mean, a woman saying that this woman is the C word. I mean, that's as bad as you could get.
Well, anybody who's followed Cher's Twitter account would know that the idea of her calling someone else dumb is the pot calling the kettle black if you spell black without a C.
How about a new singing group? How about Bette Midler, Cher, and Barbra Streisand? And we could put them on tour.
Yeah, well, you could charge for that, but not for their tweets.
There you go. Hey, Tim, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Bye-bye. Tim Graham, Director of Media Analysis for the Media Research Center on the Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, Parts 1 and 2, and there are only 2 parts, of my interview with Senator Ted Cruz over the weekend at Restoration Weekend at the Breakers in Palm Beach, coming right here, exclusively, only on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV and radio.